All right. Say hello to Angela Wick. Angela Wick is passionate about modern analysis practices. She is the founder and principal trainer of BAcube.com. She is a LinkedIn learning instructor and author with over 1 million learners. Angela is experienced in working with numerous companies in various industries, building their analysis and product ownership practices with over 20 years of hands-on experience doing business analysis and product ownership work. Angela is also on the lead author core team for the third edition of IIBA's Business Analysis Body of Knowledge. She is an expert reviewer on IIBA's Agile extension to the BABOK, the PMI's Guide to Business Analysis, and on PMI's Requirements Management Practice Guide. Angela is also the author of the ebook Agile Product Ownership, Maximizing the Role in Accelerating Success, the ebook 3 Agile BA Myths We Need to Challenge, the Career Models chapter in IIBA's Managing Business Analyst book, and the industry's first Agile Analysis Survey. We are excited and grateful to learn from her tonight. Angela, we welcome you to the IIBA South Florida chapter, and thank you for your dedication to the BA community and for contributing to our understanding of this valuable topic tonight. And without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you. You know, I was in South Florida not too long ago at the Building Business Capability IIBA conference.
Yeah.
And I covered all of South Florida because my flight got delayed, canceled, rerouted. And I ended up renting a car, landing in Fort Myers, RSW, and renting a car and driving all the way across Florida to Fort Lauderdale to get to the conference on time.
Wow.
So totally, yep.
You're well trained.
Am I sharing the right screen now?
I believe so.
It says
okay. That looks like the right one.
Yeah.
Excellent. So yeah, we're here to talk about, forget about product product is where it's at. Forget about project and requirements metrics. You know, for years we talk about project metrics and requirements metrics. And you know what? I actually think we're focused on the wrong thing, measuring the wrong things. Some of those are somewhat useful, but really today I want to bring a different angle about product metrics and how we can really show a totally different level of value in our role as business analysts and product owners by not only thinking about product metrics, but by facilitating the conversation about them with the team. And it's not that we have to be super formal about it and like get approval and be like, hey, I'm proposing that we track this. Just do it. And when you start showing this stuff, magic will happen. So thanks, Randy, for that introduction. How many of you have taken one of my LinkedIn learning courses? There are 10 of them on LinkedIn. A few of you have already said, like, you even did one today. Was it, Larry? Wow, right? So yeah, I'm really, really busy on LinkedIn. If you're not following me already on LinkedIn, I recommend you do that. I'm Angela Wick, CBAP. And then follow me because I post all kinds of goodies, nuggets, content on LinkedIn all the time. And then my other kind of big thing that I do is BAcube.com. I started it 5 years ago. It's an online membership community for BAs. And so it has all kinds of training resources, hundreds of videos, templates, articles, and on-demand courses. And we do live events every week. So today, for example, we did going deeper with agile concepts and what it means to BAs. And so BAcube members got on a Zoom call like this and talked about that. And they get PDUs and CDUs for doing that and all that fun. So that's what I do with my spare time. No. So what are we doing today? We are talking about learning about product and customer metrics and why they are so important to analysis. We're going to discover the steps you can use in analysis to ensure your leaders, stakeholders, and teams are all aligned to deliver real customer value because you are the only one on the team responsible for that. And we're going to learn the steps to cultivate this leadership buy-in, team clarity, and end user change management. So what do I mean when I say you're the only one that is really responsible for this? What I mean by this is too often we get into this funny thing where if technical people want technical things, we're like, oh, I better serve them. And we try to be servant leaders as BAs, trying to make everyone happy and doing what everyone else wants, when really we start neglecting the true analysis that we're here to do. So today's session is about helping you realize what your role is and isn't, and making sure that you can have some legs to stand on and be empowered and stand up to everyone else who seems to think your role is something else. I guess one way of looking at it is all the questions other people ask you to do is because that's what they need to do, but that doesn't mean you need to have the answers. So for example, when a technical person says, well, exactly what screen do you want that new button on, and exactly what should the button say? Right? True business analysis says, I'm not sure, but I know we need the user to be able to do this and get this result in these scenarios. What options do we have? Because a software developer needs to figure out what screen and exactly all the technical details. That's their end goal. We only get ourselves in trouble if we try to answer that question for them, especially if we write it down in a user story or requirements document. Instead, we need to empower our technical teams to do the technical analysis and technical work by empowering them with the metrics that matter about the customer and the customer experience that matters. We can talk them through those technical options, facilitate them thinking through it, but it's not our job to tell them what to code, right? It's our job to inform them of the various user scenarios and experiences. And no matter it's waterfall or agile, this has always been the case. Requirements best practices since the beginning of time have said we start with the user and we let technical folks use their technical expertise to figure out the best way to solve for that user need. Again, we collaborate and help with that, but our leaders just want projects done fast. And they don't like it when the requirements process takes a long, long time. But then we sit there and say, well, but everybody wants all this detail. Well, that's because they need that detail to get their work done. We really shouldn't be prolonging the requirements process to get all of their work done, if you know what I mean. We can collaborate and help them, but let's get requirements done and get development started, because that's what a lot of our leadership teams see as the official start of the project, right? So just kind of food for thought as we dig into this. But first, let's look at what the difference between a project and a product is and work on our mindsets for a moment. I grew up in a very project-based world, right? When I started my career, it was all about project management. I even got my PMP, and that was way before IIBA even had a certification for us, right? Because everything was about the project, a temporary endeavor and a bunch of work required to create or improve upon a product. Wait a minute. The project improves or creates a product. The project is what the team does. The product is what the customer uses. So the product is the product a team creates, and it lives on beyond the project, and it gets used by others after the project is completed. Now, a product is not a siloed technical component that is dependent on other technical components to be used. Think about this for a moment. The product is used by end users. Okay, a lot of organizations have somehow gotten into this very strange dynamic that they're calling products things that are in the middle of a technical stack that nobody actually uses, but they're used in conjunction with 6 other technology things. It's all of that together that's a product. It's all of that together in the user scenarios that we as BAs talk about. Are you with me? Let me see if I can get my chat window. I see some chats coming in. Oh, good. I think I can get this all on one screen so I can see it all. Yes, thank you, Erin, for throwing in my LinkedIn. Just click that and then click follow. Oh, by the way, I'm doing an audio chat on LinkedIn Thursday at 8 a.m. on curiosity and BAs. So maybe Erin can find that. I posted on it a couple hours ago. Find that link for everyone. Audio chat's just simply an audio thing. There's no video. You can just listen in on your mobile or on your desktop. So project, product, right? Projects create products. And funny thing, which do BAs care about, the project or the product? What do you guys think? The podcast. No, Erin, just kidding. In the chat, she says podcast. The audio event is not quite a podcast, actually. It's more like a Clubhouse event where people can interact. So it's not just me talking. So it's kind of cool. So the shift here is that projects measure tasks, timelines, and budget. A product is about the usage, user behaviors, and actions. So a lot of us work with project managers or other leaders that manage tasks, timelines, and budgets. We as BAs, yeah, we have to know that that's happening, but we work on measuring things like the usage, the user behaviors, and user actions. And this is what might be new to folks, right? It's like, what do you mean we measure this? But I hope with these examples and presentation, we're going to open your eyes to this kind of new way of thinking about your work. Traditionally, as BAs, we've thought about how do we measure BAs? And we think about things like requirements defects, deadlines, rework, and development, QA, and stakeholder satisfaction. My problem with these metrics, and I used to help companies implement these, is that they measure a silo of a value stream. They don't actually measure the value stream itself. And so that measurement itself doesn't really tell us much. And it doesn't tell our leaders a lot to get buy-in for the BA role, right? It's like, so what if there is this much rework or deadlines or whatever? It's like, did we deliver value to the users? That's what everyone wants to know, right? Because our leaders, they don't want projects done faster. They want results faster. And results are not technical things. They're the users using the system differently. So think about this for a minute. Why do leaders put money into projects? Because they want your customers to behave differently. For example, a lot of you are probably working on digital transformation projects, and the goal of a digital transformation is to get your customers to interact with you digitally instead of via paper and telephone and fax. How many of you are working on projects like this? Let's get our customers to use text, mobile, web, etc. Oh my gosh, Zoom just automatically raised my hand for me. It saw me doing this. So let's try that. Everyone do this and see what happens on Zoom. If you have the latest Zoom installed, play a little game. It tries to predict that. Yeah. So, all right. So yeah, you're working on projects that try to automate things, try to get your customers to do self-service. Those projects are successful, not when they're completed, not when a technology is completed, not when it's implemented. They're successful when the user actually changes their behavior to use the digital form instead of the old form. Randy, you're nodding there, right? Anyone else? I've got a few faces covered there. I can't see everybody, but that's what's happening, right? So that's what I want us to think about. As BAs, we can start thinking about what user behaviors are we looking to change with the work we're doing, then we can seriously make a huge impact. Because these old metrics don't really tell us if the project's successful. Leaders want results fast, not projects fast. And this is why it's so important that we honor our role and delicately answer those calls from others for things that they need to get done. But really, we need to inspire them to do the best work and give them the right inputs. They don't know how to ask for the inputs, so they're asking for what they need to do. But that's really our job, is to push them in that direction by giving them some more inputs. So let's talk about what a product metric is instead of a project or requirement metric. So let's look at this example project. The project objective that you might see in the project charter, for example, the project objective is create a digital app and website for customer self-service to reduce the number of calls to the call center. And the project goal, reduce calls to the call center by 20%. Does this look familiar at all? Again, Zoom's going to raise my hand for me. But do you guys see things like this from your project charters and executives? All right. So now the question for you is, what user behavior needs to happen to meet this objective and goal? What do you guys think? What user behavior, what do users need to stop doing and start doing? What do you guys think?
They need to stop calling the call center and start interacting digitally.
Absolutely. And what kind of things need to happen for them to feel good enough to do that? Or I could ask the opposite question. What would make them call the call center instead of using the digital?
The app doesn't work very well.
Mm-hmm.
not
Or
intuitive, hard to use.
yeah, takes too long, can't figure it out, didn't do what I needed it to do, crashes. I look at it and don't know what to click on, right? Classic when an app or a website menu is all words that don't help the user figure out what to do, right? It's classic because a lot of them will use nouns instead of action verbs. So when I go to a website, I know I want to do something. And if the menu doesn't show me that, that's kind of really tough, right? It's very, very difficult to build those menus to make sure they correlate with what the user really wants. So yeah, a product metric is going to focus on the user behaviors needed to achieve these results. So customers abandon the call queue when they're told they can self-service online. And then that same customer completes their self-service online without calling in again to get help. So some kind of sub-measurements, the percent of customers setting up online access, percent of customers that complete their task without calling in for help, percent of tasks complete online by customers, and the time it takes customers to complete online versus on the phone. Now, could you build a backlog of user stories underneath each of these metrics to support it? Could you work with your business leaders to prioritize which of these metrics they want to go after first, and then which user stories they think will make the biggest difference or they want to learn from first? Ooh, this is where it's at, folks. Are you starting to see the connection? Instead of building it by application area or by technical area, this is where we make a huge difference in analysis. So let's look at Facebook, for example. Has anyone seen the Netflix documentary Social Dilemma? You remember that? It was out a couple of years ago. And I watched it once. I need to watch it like 3 more times because you could watch it with so many hats on. As a consumer of social media, as a technical professional, as a product owner. So what's interesting to me about this is in the Social Dilemma movie, they interview software engineers from Facebook and a lot of different media companies, right? And social media and hot websites of today. And each of these software engineers says it's all about the user behavior. And I'm like, yes, software engineers talking about that. But these are also some of the fastest moving, most successful companies today, right? But here's the trick. The big question comes in, is it ethical? So Facebook engineers talk about every feature I do is about ensuring that the user spends more time per day and more time on each session before leaving Facebook. And then each user story feature and release is about making one of these metrics perform better. We might wonder if that's ethical. Yeah, we have some ethical responsibility too as BAs and product owners, right? And definitely we have to have those conversations, but we don't abandon it. And maybe some of the acceptance criteria would come into play there. So, okay, you understand product metrics, but you might be thinking, but I do internal back office IT metrics, Angela. I don't work at Facebook or now Meta, right? Well, let's talk about that. So external facing products or customer actions is what we measure. We're getting customers to use a new system, a new platform, a new feature. Now, I do a lot of work with LinkedIn and I get to beta test like everything, right? So like right now I'm a beta tester on something called carousel posts. And I was in the beta testing for the audio feature that I'm doing that event with tomorrow. I was also a LinkedIn Live beta tester. I pretty much am on their list of people that they come do new releases to before they release to everyone else. And I give them feedback on this, right? So it's pretty cool. And so they're actually measuring these metrics on a small group of people and learning and updating the product in a very agile way before rolling it out to everybody else. And we're giving them feedback on things like for this new carousel post, I'm like, hey, it took me 40 minutes to create that post. I'm not going to use that feature if that's how long it takes me to create a post, right? It should take me 5 minutes to create a post. And then of course they're asking me, well, what took 40 minutes about it? Tell us about your thought process. Tell us about what you were thinking and how you did that. And so that's the kind of feedback we want after sprints and stuff with our projects. Now, what if you're on an internal back office project? You still can do user behaviors. They're just internal users. So make sure the user is faster at doing something, maybe faster at looking up customer history or customer transactions, or faster at processing an exception or a claim or running a report. Now, maybe you're on a technical project like an API or some kind of data mining. Users still use those things. APIs, when done wrong, impact user actions and scenarios. So we need ourselves as business and system analysts to look at what is that API a part of in the value chain? Because one piece of data that's missing or incorrect in an API will give a user a bad response. And if you don't know what those scenarios are, you're going to fail at your requirements work and your work with that API. So you can still use customer metrics to measure the success of those types of projects. Is this making sense so far? Everyone with me?
Can we ask questions now or at the end?
Sure, let's have a question. I love it, Tejas. Let's do it.
Okay. So the I mean, that was tremendous. So in when you're working with APIs, which is which is most probably what you're doing if you're working between apps, right? Uh, 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 how do you recognize once you check with the user, how do you then recognize what the user is asking for? Like, is it a based on where you are, based on based on where you are, how do you recognize what the user is looking for? Do you follow ITIL service rules, or how do you know that you're managing the product well, or you're handling the product well to be overall successful in the overall product metrics?
Yeah, I mean, it might not be the user that knows in that case, right? It's going to be maybe some higher level up managers. They could be in IT or in the business. And it's really just asking them, of course, are going back to our basics in business analysis. What problem are we trying to solve and why? And then we do the analysis to figure out what user scenarios are part of that problem that we need to make sure that our workflows, our requirements, our systems all are working for. So again, going back to the basics of what problem are we trying to solve, or what opportunity are we trying to open the door for? And then you're working with different business stakeholders, technical stakeholders, and your own analysis skills and techniques to figure out what user scenarios are all in scope. Does that make sense?
That was like the whole thing, the whole thing in a couple of seconds. So but when you say scenarios, how do you manage, how do you know which scenario is works at the highest? Or if you're looking at, if you just don't, like, if you have no idea going into to a product, and you say, do I look at KPIs such as bare value minimums, or the minimum viable product? How do you then recognize a market facing versus whether it should be a market facing product or a back office product, something that you're doing as a back office function, which is then still appreciating what the client is saying or what the client is doing for the greater good?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us is just asking the right questions within the team and context with the other folks involved, right? To figure out if it's internal or external. It's just asking the right questions when we get on the project. To identify the scenarios, we use our analysis techniques. And we're trying to figure out who are all the different users impacted, what do they use this product for, and what are the different paths and scenarios through. So I'll give you an example. Almost every payment system uses an API of some sort to send someone's credit card information to a processor, to a bank, to authorize the funds, right? So some kind of API or messaging there, very technical. Well, if we were to say, what are the scenarios for a payment? You could all brainstorm a handful right now, and together as a group, we could brainstorm even more. So I would ask, first, I would start brainstorming them. It's like, well, we accept the credit card or we don't accept the credit card type. It's expired or it's not expired. It has funds or it doesn't have funds, right? And then I come to you guys and say, what else am I missing? So we want to come with the draft of scenarios, then ask our stakeholders, what am I missing? Make sure we're validating the right user groups and scenarios as part of our first step.
And I really appreciate that. That was like a scenario or persona in and of itself. Just describes the user. You try to live the idea of the user. That was very, very helpful. Thank you so much again. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happens when we focus on the wrong metrics? And I know a lot of you will resonate with this, right? When we focus on those older project or requirements metrics, we're often reporting a fake or assumed status of project percent complete, and it doesn't really tell us if we've reached the goal. So for example, if someone says, what percent are requirements complete? And you're like, oh, they're 80% complete, and the project is 20% complete. We could then implement and not meet a customer change goal at all. And so then our leaders are like 80% complete, and they're thinking 80% to 100% of meeting the customer goal. So really our project and our requirements metrics actually give a false sense of security to our leaders on what they're expecting their money is buying them by doing the project, because they're expecting the customer behavior change to happen. So it floors me how many projects do not track these measurements as they implement, right? When that's actually what leaders care about. So our business analyst product owner job is actually to validate what customer metrics leaders care about and then measure them as we go, so that we can see which features and user stories are moving the needle and making a difference, and adjust as we go. A lot of times too, with the wrong metrics, our intended business goal is just not met, and we don't know it until well after implementation. That's just too late, in my opinion. Impacts and issues also get pushed to other areas when we focus on the wrong metrics. And trust issues between the project team and business leaders happen because they spent all this money. Project is done. Why didn't I get the results I wanted? Because no one on the project team confirmed and shepherded the results that you were looking for. That's the BA role. Oh, you're trying to get users to not call into the call center. Great. I can help make sure we can measure that all along the way. And as we release and sprint, we can adjust our priorities and our user stories to make sure that that happens, instead of measuring our ROI after the entire project is done. So those of you that have been a BA for a very long time probably remember that back in the 90s and early 2000s, there was a huge focus on ROI. We got to have an ROI. But then we'd all kind of throw our hands up in the air and laugh because it took so much effort to plan for that and then track it. But by the end of the project, everything had changed. All the assumptions had changed and the data inputs to track it. And there was a new hot project to work on. So rarely did we actually go back and see if we met the ROI. But with Agile, when we're developing in smaller increments and releasing in smaller increments, we can actually lead with these customer-focused metrics and measure them all along the way. So if we're trying to get less people to call into the call center and more people to use an online process, we can release a user story or a couple of user stories and start measuring user behavior right away. And as we release, we keep measuring the user behavior and see what needs to shift and change, versus wait till the end and then no one measures it anyway and everyone gets pissed off that we didn't quite meet the results. You know that a project team usually says about 90% of the time they were successful, and they're often measuring it based on scope and deadlines and maybe budget. But you ask a business team and they will typically only report that 15 to 20% of their projects are successful. Why is their opinion so different? Right? Their opinion is so different because they're not measuring project metrics. They're measuring customer metrics, which translate to business metrics. So the customer behavior part is what we can manage because we are doing requirements about customers' usage. Yet the business metrics of lowering costs for the call center is a result of the customer behavior. So I know a lot of you are getting project objectives to lower costs, for example, make things more efficient. I want you to think about what are the customer behaviors that are needed to make that happen, because that's your direct connection to your user stories. Are y'all with me on that one? Did I connect the dots for us there? Right? So everyone talks high level about their business cost cutting things. And we're like, how do you connect that to the project until it's done? I got the answer for you, right? We first confirm that we have the right customer behaviors that we're trying to change. When you get buy-in on that from leaders, you are then able to build user stories and prioritization based on it. It's quite magical. So what happens when we do this and we focus on the right metrics? We get transparent and accurate status of the real drivers of business needs, not the project itself. We measure success earlier and with less rework. Trust increases and learning happens that enables innovation. And impacts to others, if they're adverse, are seen much earlier. And what this is really called is focusing on outcomes over outputs. So let's start at the bottom. At the bottom, the team also plans a lot of tasks and activities, and you might be planning a lot of these for your project. Those tasks and activities the team does create outputs. Those outputs eventually create outcomes and then impact. So let's go over what these mean. The impact is the business impact the business wants. I want lower costs, reduce costs. Okay, those come from user behaviors. Things like make a user faster at ordering coffee, looking up a claim, finding their status, finding a customer record, etc. Then the team talks to create outputs like software modules, user stories, test cases. So our previous project metrics would focus on output measurement. I want to move it up a level and focus on outcome measurement for BAs, because it's the connection to the real business metrics your leaders are being measured on. Then hence how we show the value of business analysis is by connecting at this level. It's too much to go from output to impact. That's how we get all kinds of rework, because it's too much of a stretch. Okay, so impact is what the business leaders talk about. I want you to increase my revenue and decrease my costs. Too many teams skip outcomes and go right down to outputs. Okay, we are going to then create these modules, do all this work, and here's our activities. We deliver it and go, uh-oh, why didn't it create that outcome? Because nobody was looking at the user outcomes and user behaviors. That means business analysis wasn't happening. Right? This is our job, honor our role. So our focus in this whole thing is on the outcomes, the user behaviors, and all the requirements and acceptance criteria, not the outputs and tasks related to that. Now let's look at the example of this. Leader says, reduce costs or increase sales. What typically happens? Middle management talks and determines a vague approach, and they list the outputs to install the software, code this, update that, create that. The teams then create task lists and plans, and then back into user stories, eventually getting the project done and claiming success. What happened to our outputs? They were missing and we failed. We implemented the wrong thing, but yet the team says, well, the business signed off on our requirements. Is that our fault? Trust evolves. So what are some outcomes? Well, how about instead of upgrading to a new version of something, the customer, we need them to put more items in the cart. We want to increase our average from 1 to 3. And how did I make that leap? Because an upgrade could be anything. It could. That's our role to figure out, what are we actually trying to do with this upgrade? What value are we going to get from it? What will the user do differently that makes them and the business better off? Migrate to a new platform. Users who leave before completing a purchase. Let's decrease the behavior of users leaving before purchasing. Integrate system A with system B. Let's decrease the customer's time spent on a call. Create a new workflow. Customer receiving their payment on a claim sooner. Reduce the time. You see the customer behavior linkage? That's what it's all about. So the problem is that POs and BAs need to lead the conversation on what customer behavior we're driving with the product. And that will help us create the right outputs and tasks and show value that the BAs have. Show our value that we contribute. Do we have traceability? Heck yeah, we do. Your leader goals to reduce cost, your outcomes, your product vision, epics, and user stories are all about user behaviors, by the way. If they're not, you're doing them wrong. Just going to say it. Come to BA Cube. We'll teach you how to do them right. And so you have traceability all the way from that goal, all the way down to the outputs and the tasks in your sprint plan. Now let's look at a sample timeline for this. In a waterfall project, we report percent complete all the way along, but the product percent implemented is 0 until we implement. And then we might measure, we might though have implemented the wrong thing. And then our business teams end up with tons and tons of requests and defects to make it right. Or they're just really pissed off. Hopefully they're happy though. But again, I'm hearing 15 to 20% of business teams are actually happy with what they get. If we go a more agile perspective, we implement 20%, then 40%, and we're measuring the metrics all the way along. By the time we get to whatever sprint, it might be sprint 6, it might be sprint 35, you get 100% to the goal. Think about this. It could be percent of scope, but what's really nice about this is your scope of your project changes. And I really like to think of scope as the goal. If I'm trying to get to 80% self-service and 20% calls instead of 80% calls and 20% self-service, my project is done when we've figured out the features and tweaks to features to get to that number, not when I've implemented certain technologies. Are you with me on that? And not when I've implemented certain features, because there's 100 ways we could tweak features to get a customer behavior to change to a successful behavior that we want. So it's just a very different way of thinking about success. And I think you're going to resonate with your business group more when you think and act this way. So how would a sprint review on an agile team be different? Well, a product owner would kick off a sprint review with a reminder of the product vision. The product vision would say something like, we are looking to change customer behavior and get them to self-service 80% of the time instead of 20% of the time. So we're looking for our customers to actually use the mobile app and the website to change their address, to ask questions about their product, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then the team presents their sprint goal, which links to a product metric. So this sprint, we are working on getting more customers to sign up for online access and download the mobile app. And here are the things we've done to help customers do that. And they would demo that. So do you see where a sprint goal is aligned to a product vision and a customer behavior? And then our user stories are then aligned to that. Then the team demos that working new functionality from a user point of view. And the team and stakeholders discuss the metric, process, assumptions, and questions. Ooh, how many of your sprint reviews look like this, right? Something to think about, right? Is your product owner introducing the sprint review? And are they introducing a sprint goal aligned with the product vision and customer behavior? And how can you help with this? Right? So where do you start? Because if you walk in and recommend a new sprint review process, it might not work. Where do you start? First, create a product vision. Even if there's already a product vision and product metrics, I want you to create a new version. Call it something different if they've already called something else a product vision, right? Like maybe you see a product vision, it says, create this best of breed website with best of breed AI that automates and does all this frictionless processing. I see this all the time. All these words that mean nothing to customer behaviors, just sexy technical words, right? So even if that's already created, call it something else, but create a customer vision. Here's how we want the customer experience and the customer behaviors to change. And here are some measurements. Focus on old versus new behaviors and change. Get that approved from your product owner or business lead. Now, formal or informal, just get some shared understanding. Do I understand this right? I read the current project charter and vision. Is this what we're looking for? We're looking for customers to do this, 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 and this instead of this, this, and this. And don't even call it something if you don't have to, right? We're not looking to step on toes or tell people their visions are wrong. And if you don't use these terms, then use them, right, for yours. Create your assumptions to be clarified. After all, requirements are just assumptions or hypotheses we think will meet the need. Let me say that again. What do I mean by this? I mean, a requirement is simply a hypothesis. We think that if we give a user this capability, they will actually use it and these numbers will change. Oh, wait a minute. We think that if we partner with chapter to chapter together to host IIBA meetings, members will benefit more. We have to try it out and do it to see if we're meeting our metrics, right? Yeah. So realize that all your requirements are just hypotheses. When you have this mindset, something shifts inside you as a BA, and you start managing requirements and your stakeholders differently. You start answering your technical folks different when they ask for details. You start answering with things like, I'm not sure, what options do we have? We're trying to get the user to do this instead of this. What do you think? Instead of getting all nervous and thinking you have to have all the answers for the developers, you don't. Together, you're a team to innovate. Where else can you start? Create more experiments to see if you're on track. I see so many teams spending weeks and weeks and weeks debating solution options and ideas when they could have tried 3 different ideas in those so many weeks and gotten real results and feedback on what works from users. So whenever you see that dynamic spinning out of control, try to recommend a short experiment that might be easier than changing the entire process or going down a large rabbit hole. Different mindset, right? So for some of you, you're like, oh, this makes so much sense. Yes. And others are going to be right now thinking, whoa, this is really different than how my team and company operate. It's okay, no matter where you're at. It's okay, no matter where you're at in your experience level, skill level, or mindset. But this is where it's going. This is 100% where our field is going. Aaron did an experiment on drinking beer, and I don't remember the results. Oh boy. Okay. Well, then you just did the experiment without creating your hypothesis and expected results, right? My BAQ platform has a great deal, by the way. You can get started for $5 for your first month. I will put a link in the chat. But it's a pretty cool deal. It's your first month for $5. Cancel anytime. If you stay on, it's like $49 a month. And if you cancel, you still get access for 1 month. And it's just $5 for all the PDUs and CDUs you can handle. So how about some more questions from you guys? I know we have about 10 minutes left. Is that about right, Randy?
Yes, that's correct.
So I ended right on time for questions, right?
Perfect.
Yay.
Perfect.
No, Sam.
All right, just need to get off mute. Thank you, Angela. That was great. I wanted to point something out that I have, I deal with in my own place of employment. So we have a UX research team that works closely with the product management team, which is, PM and the BA.
Mhm.
And what we use them to do exactly what you asked for, which is we have these features that the business group is requesting, and the business says, hey, I want this functionality. And then when we try to figure out how to solve for that problem, the way they pose the problem, because they come with, this is what we want, we find that, okay, how about we engage UX research to talk to a pool of customers, maybe 10 of them, and then find out how are they interacting with the screen today. And then this improvement the business is asking for, is it really going to solve the problem in terms of how they're interacting with the screen? Or is that us coming up with a solution and then we listen for what they say, and then it's on the feature I'm working on now, it's literally changed exactly the approach. What we thought we were going to do, it's completely different now, because we assumed one role was doing what we thought was happening, but no, it's 2 or 3 other different roles that can confirm what we think this person can confirm. So we're rethinking the entire solution, we're rethinking the entire design for that page. So my question is, how can BAs leverage their UX research teams, or if they don't have one, how can BAs leverage UX research to figure out what the true solution should be for the problem that the business is trying to solve for? And again, I say so because those things come with metrics. When you do those UX researches, they come with metrics.
Yeah.
of your current product?
I would say it's the user research isn't the only team with the answers, right? It's a collaborative effort between technology, business leaders. UX research has a part of the equation, but UX research can also be flawed at times too. And so, and there's a lot of work right now being done in the world of agile and agile UX, and trying to get user research to be more agile as well, and to start using some real data like A/B testing, releasing 2 different versions of something at once and seeing what happens with bigger volumes of users. So that there's a lot going on in that field, but it's not just them that have the answers, right? It's a collaborative effort where everybody needs to work together. So I really think that business analysts and product owners can come together to facilitate all the people together in that to decide next steps, not just a handoff to UX.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Martin, it looks like has a question.
Yeah.
And
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Angela. I thought that was fantastic, and really quite a different way of looking at things, which I do find quite interesting. That's already got me thinking. I guess a question I have in terms of traditional sort of quality metrics that we use in the BA space. Often it's around the quality of the requirements. Consistent, concise, measurable, all the rest of it. Is what you're saying that those quality indicators, they really need to be changed a bit to be around how customer focused is this requirement, rather than it being abstract? Is that what you're saying? Or are you saying that in fact capturing any type of requirements metrics is a bit pointless because it's only part of the picture?
it's part of the picture, but it doesn't mean it's pointless. I think it's just like anything, really making sure, would somebody pay for this? So, there are going to be projects and teams where it makes sense to capture those requirements metrics. I think those requirements quality attributes, it's really a question of at what level of detail, because you can have all high level requirements and still meet those attributes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be detailed. So there's a lot of context in all of that happens, right?
Yeah.
But even the best requirements methodologies from the 80s started with the customer. All requirements, best practices have always started with the customer.
Yeah. But in terms of measuring whether a requirement's quality is improving, for instance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is still an important metric, but it's more important in terms of the ability of the BA, their own professional competency, rather than its indicator of the project progress and health. That's sort of where you're going, isn't it?
I don't know. I think it's tricky. I mean, measuring if requirements quality is improving on an individual by individual basis, to me, I'm not sure it's worth the effort to go there. I think it's more like measuring, are our projects delivering value, and what happened on that project consistently on those projects to make that happen. And my guess is analysis happened, no matter it was a BA or not, or if the BA inspired the team to do analysis. I think it's more important we measure the entire value stream than just the BA function, and then start asking ourselves, was there a BA on the team, or did these things happen? So I did a big agile analysis survey in 2019 and found very clear evidence that if these analysis things happen, and from a customer perspective, with a vision, with product metrics, with teams were getting remarkably better results. Here's the kicker. I asked, was it a BA that facilitated all that on the project or not? And it didn't matter. What mattered is that it happened. So what that tells us is, I know this is the direction the world is going. If you don't do it, someone else will eventually, or the project will fail. But if your role isn't doing it, is your role going to be seen as valuable? That's what I am scared of, right?
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. So those other metrics, Martin, I mean, they can be valuable, absolutely. But if I had to choose a metric on a project to measure, those wouldn't be it.
Yeah.
I'd measure these customer ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Part of your presentation, you kind of mentioned what leadership typically asks for, and it's those project metrics.
Yeah.
Even though they are kind of seeking an outcome that is maybe end user or customer related, do you have any tips for explaining the value of the business analysis work in case it, whether it's the PO or the business analyst, for those leaders who might not understand the concept of the dependency between teams and decreasing technical debt and increasing success and other outcomes that might come from really understanding, having these KPIs and metrics in place.
My advice would be to do it on one small feature or project and show the results and how different they are. I think it's very difficult to propose, pitch, and talk leaders into formal BA processes because in their mind, oh, you want me to spend more money and more work before any development starts? In their mind, it delays the result. So what you have to show them is that your work accelerates the result. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
And you show it by doing it. And you can even do it and then show, like, on this project, this is what I did, and it delayed the result. On this project, I did this, and look what happened. Now let's talk about how we can spread this model across the organization, right?
Yes.
Just gave you all the paths to vice president.
Good. You gave me everything I needed to know. I have another question. Also.
Yeah.
Do you have any, do you have any call outs maybe about, data compliance related to measuring product metrics, maybe things to look out for as you're coming up with these data points to measure?
Tell me what you mean by a call out to data compliance.
I'm trying to think of how to word this. Well, right now, in some compliance regulations, there's the concept of collecting data when there's a business need, for example, and being able to validate that. And so I guess my thought is, are there any things to kind of like look out for in terms of what not to what maybe you'd want to be mindful of how you measure?
Yeah.
Or when you stop measuring, maybe.
With data, it's funny because data was my learning bundle this week on BA Cube. Every week we have a learning bundle, and this week it was data. With data, it's super important that you're always thinking who is using the data and what action will they take when they see it. That's the translation to the user. Right? So who is using the data? What action will they take upon seeing it? So no matter what kind of data project you're doing, dashboard, data warehouse, right? All the data analytics, who's going to see this chart? Who's going to see this report? Who's going to see this dashboard? Who's going to use the data for what and why? Then you can get to these same metrics and be on the same track. Now, the worst thing you can have, of course, is data that nobody uses or they find irrelevant. Then we did it wrong, right?
That's fair.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions? Last call. All right. I'm gonna just kind of
can I fit in a question really quickly?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Just like, so from a perspective of the BA Cube, and I went exploring on the page as well, and I found it to be very, very interesting. So I wanted to say thank you for that. Thank you on behalf of everybody as well. Where do you see, like, from a product owner, from a CPOA to a product manager, from a product manager to a product owner, do you see any changes upcoming that are innovation that's happening in the future now or in the future?
Innovation in terms of the roles?
Yeah, the innovation in terms of the roles, the duties, in terms of
So one thing to recognize about product management is that field is quite immature in defining the role. Like, kind of like the business analysis role varies from organization to organization, so does a product manager role. In general, product managers are more market facing and external facing. Product owners are more internal facing. right? And so product owner, product manager, that's the most basic line that we can draw. But a lot like business analysis, the role is very different from organization to organization and team to team. So that's the hard part. There's no hard and fast, like it's exactly this role and responsibility.
Definitely. Sounds great. So I plan on signing up to BA Cube as well. So thank you so much for that. Thank you.
And we'll see you there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, thank you, Angela. We so appreciate you coming out and really diving into metrics and helping us understand the importance of product metrics. And I think for me, it was very helpful, and I'm sure it was helpful for everyone else, valuable for everyone.
Yeah. Think about incorporating this thought process and some questions into your practices that can, yeah. So Christine's got a question. If I sign up for BA Cube, can I go way back to older content? Oh yeah. There's stuff on there from about, I mean, some of it's, I've been building it for 5 years and we release new content often. And we have learning bundles every week, and we have learning bundles for the whole month posted on the homepage once they're logged in. And you can see the entire catalog and library once you're a member of all of the videos and everything. Yep.
Awesome.
My LinkedIn courses are different. BA Cube is not LinkedIn Learning. Those are 2 different platforms. So yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right.
We highly appreciated that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So everyone, if you're not already a member of the IABA, we strongly recommend that you become one. And actually, I'm going to stop recording, or if Nosa, if you could stop recording. We strongly recommend that you become a member of IABA. I will speak a little bit more about the benefits of IABA membership shortly. But there are 3 core certifications: ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP certifications. They are globally recognized and are great ways for you to enhance your career. I can move this slide. There are also 4 specialized business analysis certifications, and keep me honest here because I know we are always growing and I'm sure there will be more coming out soon. But those focuses are cybersecurity analysis, agile analysis, business data analysis, and product ownership analysis. And the corresponding handbooks and bodies of knowledge that support these specializations are free with your IABA membership. So it's not only about gaining your certification, but gaining knowledge and skills that will add value in the organizations that we support and even start in some cases. Again, we strongly recommend that you become an IABA member. There are a great number of resources available that will help you thrive in the workplace. There are webinars, certification, handbooks, and many resources in the IABA library, the Knowledge Hub, where you can access tips and tools and templates. You don't have to figure things out on your own. IABA is a large community of business analysts with curated content that will support you. And as I said before, we are looking for volunteers. Volunteering Web Chapter is really a great way to impact our business analysis community here in South Florida and beyond. And we welcome everyone. It's been really rewarding for me personally being a volunteer at the South Florida chapter, meeting so many professionals in the BA field. And it's helped broaden my perspective and helped me learn and grow as well. So if you're interested, please feel free to email us or find us on LinkedIn. We're happy to have you. We actually also have a BAVOC study group coming up. So if you are planning to prepare for a certification, a core certification, it would be a great way for you to learn more about the BAVOC and study for certification. We do have a 25% discount on Watermark if you join, and we can tell you more about it, but you can also find it on southflorida.iaba.org. As well as our other events that are coming up. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Bluegrass chapter that's here supporting us. And thank you for everyone who attended. Definitely connect with us on social media to see what's coming up, and contact us if you'd like to volunteer. We hope to see you soon again soon.
Where do we contact for the volunteer? If you want to volunteer?
Yeah, you can email. Actually, I'll put it in the chat, my email.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I need to drop for my yoga class. I got to get going to that. Thank
Ooh,
you.
love that.
I know.
Stretch
That's
out.
I love yoga.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much, Angela.
Thank you.
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, hi, Christine. Yeah, I'll reach out to you for sure.
We kind of lost touch along the way, I think, somewhere.
Yeah, I know yeah.
It
I'll
got
definitely reach
crazy.
out to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Randy, for allowing us at Bluegrass to be part of this. And we hope to have future endeavors like this.
Yeah, thank you for your support. Oh my gosh, so we're really grateful to be
Oh,
able
it was wonderful. Thank you. It was, and we also have, some presentations on our site that you guys are more than welcome to join us. We'd always love to have you guys as well with us.
Absolutely. I registered for one actually. That's coming up. I think
Which
it's
one?
coming up in, let me see, because I got an email about it. Let me find it. Bluegrass. Elicit and collaborate like a pro.
Oh, okay. Yes. Good. We'll look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, I look forward to it as well.
Great. Well, you guys have a wonderful night. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
Bye.